Mahmud of Ghazni, known as Amīr-i Shahīd, was sultan of the Ghaznavid Empire from 1030 to 1040. He rose to power by seizing the Ghaznavid throne from his younger twin Mohammad, who had been nominated as the heir upon the death of their father Mahmud of Ghazni. His twin was shortly blinded and imprisoned. However, when much of Mahmud's western domains had been wrested from his control, his troops rebelled against him and reinstated Muhammad to the throne. Early life campaigns. Mahmud was born along with his younger twin brother Mohammad in 998 at the Ghaznavid capital of Ghazni. In 1015, Mahmud was appointed as heir of the Ghaznavid Empire by his father, and was also appointed as the governor of Herat. 5 years later, he led an expedition in Gur, which was still a pagan enclave. Mahmud later participated in the campaigns of his father in Jaibal, where they managed to annex the Buyid Emirate of Ray, which was then under the rule of Majd al-Dawla. After Mahmud's father left the region, Mahmud was in charge of the Ghaznavid operations in western Iran. He continued his campaigns further west, where he managed to defeat the Cplakidas ruler Muhammad ibn Rustam Dushman-Sayyar, who made a treaty where he agreed to recognize Ghaznavid authority. However, Muhammad kept violating the treaty, and in 1030 wrested Ray from the Ghaznavids. During the same period, Mahmud, because of his bad relations with Mahmud, changed his opinion, and appointed Muhammad as his heir, who was much more less experienced in government and military affairs than Mahmud. Mahmud shortly died, and was succeeded by Muhammad. Struggle for the throne. However, his uncle Yusuf ibn Cplakidas and the Ghaznavid army, including prominent officers such as Ali Dar, were in favor of Mahmud, whose military campaigns had earned him a great reputation. Mahmud was also joined by his former assistant Abu al-Zorzani, who, in the words of the historian Yusufi, became a sort of vizier and rose in prestige and influence. He also became feared, since he exercised his bent toward vengefulness, spite, and intrigue. Nevertheless, in order to further strengthen his army, Mahmud recruited a group of Turkmens which were headed by their chiefs Amir, Kizil, Boga, and Goktish. Reign. Consolation of the empire in war with the Cplakidas. Mahmud then marched towards Ghazni, where he defeated his brother and had him imprisoned, while crowning himself as the new sultan of the Ghaznavid Empire. Mahmud shortly released the disgraced statesman Ahmad from prison, and appointed him as his vizier. He also appointed Ali Dar as the commander-in-chief of the army of Khorasan, while another general named Ahmad al-Tigan was appointed as the commander-in-chief of the army in India. Although Mahmud was a great military leader, he was heedless in advice from his officers, which would later result in disastrous events during his reign. He also suspected the majority of his father's officers of treachery, and even had his own uncle Yusuf imprisoned, and also had the powerful statesman Ali ibn al-Aslin imprisoned. In 1032, Ahmad died and was succeeded by Ahmad Shirazi as Mahmud's vizier. Sometime later, Mahmud's governor and de facto ruler of Khwarezm, Al-Tash, was sent to invade the domains of the Cplakidas ruler Ali Tigan Bufra Khan, but was killed at Dabizia, a town near Samarkand. He was then succeeded by his son Harun. War in western Iran and clash with Turkish nomads. In 1033, Mahmud captured the fortress of Sarsit, and shortly invaded Kerman, which was then under the rule of the Buyid ruler Abu Khaliya. Mahmud shortly managed to conquer the region. However, the inhabitants of Kerman, who preferred Buyid rule, rallied to Abu Khaliya. and under his vizier Bahram ibn Mayfuna reconquered Kerman. During the same period, Ahmad and Altigan rebelled and defeated an army sent by Masud, who shortly sent another army under an Indian statesman named Tilak, who managed to rout Ahmad and Altigan, who drowned while he was trying to escape from Tilak. In 1033, Masud married the daughter of the Ziyarid Anushirvan Sharaf al-Mali's relative Abu Khaliya, who was the real ruler of the Ziyarid state. During the same year, in order to keep control over his vassal unreliable Cplakidas ruler Muhammad, Masud I appointed Abu Salhamdui as the governor of Jaibal. In 1034, Harun declared independence from the Ghaznavids, and allied himself with the Karakhanid ruler Ali Tegan. Masud, however, managed to have Harun assassinated, and Ali Tegan shortly himself died. Harun was succeeded by his brother Ismail Khandan, who continued to ally with the Karakhanids. Meanwhile, the Seljuk Turks under the leadership of Tufril asked Masud for asylum. Masud, however, considered the Turkish nomads a dangerous threat and sent an army under Bigtodi, who was the newly appointed commander-in-chief in Khorasan. The army was shortly defeated by the Seljuks, who forced Masud to cede Nasser, Farava and Dhistan in return for Seljuk recognition of Ghaznavid authority. In 1034, Masud marched an army to Amil to collect tribute, sacking Amil for 4 days and later burned it to the ground. In 1035, Masud I made another invasion of western Iran, where he defeated Abu Khaliya, who had rebelled against him. Masud then marched towards Jaibal, where he once again defeated the Cplakidas ruler Muhammad, who fled to the Bayadhs of Ahvaz, and then to northwestern Iran, where he raised an army composing of Turkmens. In 1037, while Masud was campaigning in India, Muhammad, at the head of an Turkmen army, once again occupied Ray from the Ghaznavids. Meanwhile, another Karakhanid ruler named Boratigan invaded the Ghaznavid territories and plundered Kutal and Vaksh. He also managed to conquer Chatayan and repel the local Mutajid dynasty from the region. Furthermore, the Seljuks had begun to slowly subdue the cities of Khorasan, and when they captured Nishapur, Tufril proclaimed himself as the ruler of Khorasan. Masud, after having returned to Khorasan, tried to reconquer Chatayan but was defeated by Boratigan. War with the Seljuks and downfall. However, he expelled the Seljuks from Herat and Nishapur. He soon marched towards Merv to completely remove the Seljuk threat from Khorasan. His army included 50,000 men and 60 or 12 war elephants. He was accompanied by his vizier Ahmad Shirazi, his chief secretary Abu Salzorzani, his generals Ali Dar, Bigtodi and Subashi, and Abd al-Razak Maimandi, the son of Ahmad Maimandi. A battle shortly took place near Merv, known as the Battle of Dandanakan, where the army of Masud was defeated by a much smaller army under Tufril, his brother Chagri Beg, and the Kakayad prince Faramaz. Masud thus permanently lost control of all of western Khorasan. Although Masud managed to retain his capital Ghazni, he chose to leave the city and set up a capital in India. Masud, who blamed Ali Dar and other generals from the disastrous Ghaznavid defeat near Merv, had them imprisoned in India. However, the army of Masud, which used to greatly hold him in high esteem, revolted against him, and had his brother Muhammad reinstated to the throne. Death and aftermath. Muhammad then had Masud imprisoned at Giri, where he was killed either on the orders of Muhammad or Muhammad's son Ahmed. Masud had a son named Mahmud Ghaznavi, who later avenged his father by killing Muhammad, and then crowned himself as the new ruler of the Ghaznavid Empire. He also had other sons named Said, Izad Yahmad Shah, Majdud, Ibrahim Ali, and Farrukhzad. The last 3 sons sultans also managed to later become the ruler of the Ghaznavid Empire in different periods.